A bridge coach. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona. I'll tell you why. In a second, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Kansas at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sword. I'll tell you why, Matt. So Modai's having trouble wrapping his mind around what a bridge coach is.
No. I defined it perfectly. I'm saying it's stupid.
No, well, okay. I think the Dallas Cowboys, and obviously I'm speculating. I don't speak for the front office. I'm not associated with them. I think they've finally come to the realization can't win with Dak Prescott's contract. I mean, he's not a bad quarterback, but you can't win giving this man, having Dak Prescott hit $70 million of your cap every year. It's just not possible. There's not enough remaining salary to put a competitive team on the field that has a chance of winning the championship. So I'm hoping the Dallas Cowboys front office has finally come to this realization. The eyes are now on 2028, and this is a bridge coach. There's no point in hiring a guy you think could do a good job because the fans are just going to hate him by the time you actually get to the window.
Or Jerry Jones just wants to hire somebody that he can run the show and that isn't going to take the limelight away from him.
No, that's so that what's the point of hiring a coach you think is going to be a great hire if you're not going to have the tools to win? The fans aren't going to be cool with that, especially Cowboys fans.
So you think there's a better chance that he thinks that you think it's more likely that he thinks, oh, there's no chance we're going to win, so I'm going to hire some
First of all, you
as
say
the head
he
coach.
thinks it's his son's making the decisions, not him. He gives the interviews. He doesn't have any say. Like he's just a figurehead.
Jerry's still running that team. That's why they're such a train wreck. It's because Jerry's still running that team.
I don't know. I think we got the AT&T light actually shining down on Modai right now.
Honestly,
right?
Why is he wearing his hat like Nelly?
I also noticed that as well. He does look like 04 Nelly.
Because I'm blocking the sun.
Oh yeah, no, it looks sweet, dude. It looks super sweet.
Going.
Okay, thank you. Kyle, I'm just happy that you're finally showing up to work. I mean, we appreciate that you're taking some time off, but it's just nice that for you to actually show up to work for a change.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll record another episode later. I'll go a deep dive into bridge coaches and how it works. As far as yesterday, I hope you're all having a lovely the fuck day is it?
It's Tuesday.
I hope you're all having a lovely Tuesday. Hope you all had a nice Monday night. My picks did great last night. I only made a few dollars because the bets I placed went 2-2. My biggest bet was Hornets +6. So I did have a profitable night, but I forgot to place the 3 extra NBA. On the show, I said I was betting the Heat. That won. I said I was betting the Rockets. That won. Said I was betting the Suns. That won. Got off the show, just started working on something else, completely forgot to place all 3 of those bets. So I should have went 5-2 last night, but I only went 2-2. But whatever, had a profitable night. If any of you guys, Modai, Chris, did any of you guys, I know Prop Beaver saw it because I just showed him when he got to work today. Did you guys happen to see when we were live on the midnight stream last night? Bro, we were live, obviously, doing college basketball for the midnight show, and we all had Arizona, and we were live when he hit that 70-footer to tie it at the buzzer. I was like the coolest thing I've never been live during something like that. Ton of fun. We were like, like we were going nuts. Yeah. Did you guys see the replay of that, Caleb Love?
That was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Caleb we were on a live stream. We all had Arizona, and we were on a live stream when he hit it. It was wild. So let's talk some ball. I do have 2 NBA bets and 3 college basketball bets tonight. I have 5 bets open, but I'm in the market for some more. I do have a bet in this game right here. Lakers, Philadelphia. Lakers obviously on the back-to-back. I took the over at 217.5. Not a bet I particularly love. It's tough taking an over when we're talking about 2 slow-paced teams. If you go by the last 10 games, these are 2 of the slower-paced teams in the NBA. It's tough taking an over if we're going to see a slow-paced game. Couple things I like, though, for the over. I like that the Lakers are on a back-to-back, and I know that hasn't really been the case this year, but historically, remember last year, the Lakers defense on a back-to-back, like forget it. Like just going to be easy buckets. And also the pieces that are out for Philadelphia, I know you might be looking at them thinking, Kyle, Philadelphia's missing scorers, which is true, but they're also missing guys that slow the game down. So even though Philadelphia, look at their last 10 games. They're one of the slower paced teams in the NBA. Against a Lakers team that just played. That game against the Hornets came down to the wire last night. We got the cover at +6. They made us sweat for it. Anthony Davis played, I think, 37 minutes. LeBron plays 36 minutes. Not implying that I think these guys are going to sit or anything. But if I'm Philadelphia, who's, by the way, he's won 2 games in a row, I'm turning the speed up tonight. I'm running on these guys, on these veterans. So I think Philadelphia is going to make it a point to turn the pace up and try to exploit the Lakers on a back-to-back. Not to mention Philadelphia has been terrible defensively and missing the pieces that they're missing. Lakers should have no problem scoring. So I know that an over with 2 slow-paced teams seems like a suicide mission, and I agree with you. I happen to like this over here. Like I said, I got a 217.5 last night. What do you guys think?
Who would like to follow? Should I go?
Whoever wants to take the mic.
You know what? I'm just so excited to talk about this guy. I'll just follow. We're talking about
Wait,
Yabo.
Proppy, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been hitting recently.
Yeah, I've been hitting a little bit lately. The NFL has actually taken me behind the shed and done whatever it's want with me. So at least I have to hit in some sport, right? So we got Yabo. We bring Jabo on the show for the NFL. Now we got Yabo in the NBA. Gershon Yabusele, I'm taking his over 2.5 assists. This is the guy that was keeping AD up all night. I mean, we saw AD, he could barely perform yesterday. He put up 42 points, God forbid. Anyways, that was just a little bit of a jab at Kyle. We both covered our bets yesterday, so good for us. Gotta love that. So why do I like Yabusele in this spot? Normally we're looking for the points and the rebounds in the spot where we got Drummond and Embiid off the court, but I really like the assists in this spot because he's been a cash cow without both these guys on the court. He's over in 8 of 11 opportunities, averaging 3.3 assists per game, but now you add Paul George to the inactive list, and he's 4-0 without the trio on the floor. He's averaging 4 assists per game, and he's averaging 8 potential assists per game with 6+ potentials in East. With just 5+ potentials this season, Yabo's 8-1 to the over. He's averaging over 4 full assists per game. And the Lakers allow the second most assists per game in the league this year to the center position. According to Props.Cash, the last 10 of 12 centers to face the Lakers have hit their assists over. And I think the only reason we're even getting this at 2.5 is because when they played earlier this season, there was no Embiid on the court, but Drummond was. So he played that 4. Completely different scenario. He nabbed 0 assists. I think that this is going to be a very, very valuable prop here. Only 2.5 minus 125. I would go ahead and smack this one. I believe he smacked this, if I'm not wrong, in 5 or 6 straight games. Normally, I'm not looking to play plays with a hit rate like that, but I just think they're just completely undervaluing this guy due to the position he plays and I guess the slow pace factor of this game. But I love this spot for Yabo. So taking the over 2.5 assists here. Yes.
Chris, I will say, Chris is a Lakers fan, if for those of you who didn't know. I will say the Lakers, that's 4 games in a row now where they've looked strong. Because let's be honest, last night they took their foot off the gas. They were up, I think it was 19, 17, something like that. LaMelo Ball was ruled out. It was either the beginning of the second quarter, end of the first quarter. They're up 19 points against the Hornets, and LaMelo Ball just left the game. So that's a case. They look very strong early in that game, and they had won and covered 3 games before that. So for those of you that are on the Lakers, I can see it. It looks like they have turned a bit of a corner here. Are you laying 4, Chris?
Absolutely not. It's absolutely not. No way possible. If you can't do it without LaMelo in there yesterday, like you said, Kyle,
I mean, they did do it, though. They're not trying to cover. We want them to cover. Well, I didn't, but...
That's right. No, that's my point, though. If you can't go in and if you get that big of a lead and then LaMelo plays and somebody asks you, Kyle, you taking the 6, you're probably like, no, the Lakers are going to win this game by 10. I know they typically don't, but they're going to win this game by 10. Absolutely not. They just make it so hard on themselves, whether the offense can't score or the defense doesn't show up, whatever the case might be. That's why you don't lay points with them. I think they're 1-5 against the spread now as a road favorite in non-conference games. So I know it looks super easy to lay the points with the Lakers tonight. A Philly team that, as probably we just mentioned, will be without a lot of stars, no PG, no Embiid, no Caleb Martin. I think Kyle Lowry is still out. I'm still not laying this many points with the Lakers. And all of the numbers.
Kyle Lowry's back, bro.
Is he back?
He's back.
Definitely. Might not even win then. Might not even win if Kyle Lowry returns. But all the data supports it, right? Supports the Lakers. You got a 76ers team that's 2-9 against the spread. When they have the rest advantage, which they do, 2-6 against the spread if the opponent is playing on the second leg of a back-to-back. They're 12-18-1 without Embiid. They're 3-11 straight up, 4-10 against the spread without Embiid and PG. And they're losing by about 8 points. They're getting outscored by about 8 points per 100 possessions. And the only wins that they have came against the Wizards and the Nets. And they caught the Pacers slip at one time. So it looks like an easy Lakers spot. I didn't play the game, Kyle, but it will be over for me just because I don't believe in the Lakers defense. I also the reason why I didn't play it is because I really find it hard. Like, I look at Philly's roster, I'm like, bro, who is going to score the ball outside of Maxey? I know Yabusele has been good. Ricky Council is okay. That's the only thing that kind of scares me off a little bit. But the defensive rating goes through the roof without PG and without PG and Embiid on. They're giving up about 14 more points per 100 possessions, and I do think Philly's going to play fast. So I do like over a little bit more than anything else, Cal. I stayed away from this game now.
Yeah, I mean, I will say what I just said about the Lakers turning the corner. Philadelphia has won back-to-back games, and most of that was obviously without Embiid, but Paul George didn't play in most of the last game. Also, Caleb Martin hasn't been healthy. So the Sixers are missing pieces. They have won back-to-back games. One of those games was against Cleveland. So, I mean, you could make an argument that Philadelphia is playing some better basketball last couple games as well. Matthew, what do you think about your 76ers?
Well, I disavow them. I think that they're just a complete loser team and organization. I'm surprised you guys aren't laying the points with the Sixers.
You should lay them in.
Well, no, I don't, because I don't do main lines. Anyways, I have Austin Reaves over 6.5 assists. You can get it at -110 at both FanDuel and DraftKings. He's been good in games in which, games since they traded D'Angelo Russell. 13 games, he's hit 7 or more assists in 8 of those 13 games. 3 of the games he went under, he had exactly 6 assists. One of them came yesterday when I think he had 6 in the first quarter and then had nothing the rest of the game. So obviously, like, we're getting close in the majority of the games that he plays. If you just look at games against teams that are bottom half in terms of total assists allowed, and the Sixers, missing everybody, play like a frenetic style of defense where they're just like trying to be aggressive, getting the ball out of the guy's hands, forcing turnovers, stuff like that. They allow the 10th most assists overall. In games in which Reaves has played without D'Angelo Russell against teams that are bottom half in assists allowed, he's hit 7 or more in 6 of 8 games. And 9 of the last 15 point guards against the Sixers have hit their assist prop as well. So it's a good matchup. It's a good hit rate. Austin Reaves over 6.5 assists, -110.
What are all these other graphics in here?
Well, Chris had 2 maybe leans on his show. One of them was Austin Reaves under points of rebounds, but the line moved on him, so I could see why he didn't even mention that. And then the other one was Anthony Davis over points, but the line moved against him in that one, so I could see why he didn't mention that as well.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah. What did the line move probably on Austin Reaves?
So it was the line for Austin Reaves moved from 23.5 to it went from 22.5 consensus line, but some of the books even had it 21.5. So there was that, and then I saw the Anthony Davis one was like 26.5 over -125 on some books this morning, and now it's like 25.5 -115 across the board. So I thought that was a little weird. So yeah.
Look at me. I feel like Cal getting a little CLV on my fake plays.
Yeah,
yeah, it's an ego boost, isn't it? Let's go to the next one.
Yeah, there we go.
Not really, not at all.
Houston, Atlanta, ton of moving pieces in this one. So first of all, both these teams played hard-fought games last night. Atlanta, they covered. Wasn't the most competitive game in the world, but it was a single-digit game. It was never an absolute blowout, and they covered. The Hawks just played last night in Minnesota, immediately fly home to play the Rockets. And then you got the Rockets, who were just in Boston last night and played a game that came down to the wire against the defending champions, Boston Celtics. So you got both these teams coming off competitive games last night in different cities. That's number one. So both these teams fly in for this one. And then on the other hand, both these teams have more important games right after this. Atlanta's about to go to Cleveland, and Houston's about to go to Memphis. So kind of a weird spot for both teams. You got 2 teams on the second leg of a back-to-back with a travel. Both these teams playing this game and have a more important game on deck. Not much interest in betting this one. I will say Houston's been an elite offensive rebounding team this year, best offensive rebounding team in the NBA. The Hawks have actually done a pretty solid job rebounding, and they've shown us a few times this year, a couple of stretches where the Hawks were pretty solid on the board. So The Hawks could potentially be a tough matchup for Houston coming off the big game against Boston. Atlanta did sit some pieces last night. So if Trae Young's able to go, he's listed as questionable. Maybe they're actually have the rest advantage over Houston, even though they just played, because Trae Young obviously didn't. So I guess, gun to my head, probably would take the 6.5. Is it still 6.5? It's 6, but you can get 6.5. I would probably take the 6.5 with the Hawks, but I'm not betting this. And with all the moving pieces, I don't really have much interest in putting my money on this one. Modi?
Yeah, for this one, I went Jaylen Green, and I took him 25 plus points. So if you want to take his main line, you can get 22.5 pretty much across the board at minus 120. Obviously, everybody knows me knows I'd rather pump that up, especially for someone like him, where in the stretch of games without Jabari Smith Jr., he's never landed between like 22, 23, or 24 points. He's either gone over 20, he's either gone 25 or more or under. And this is like it's both a positive regression spot, as he's missed this in 3 of his last 4 games. Prior to that, he cashed in 8 straight, just some insane performances in that stretch. And like the volume is still mostly there. He just hasn't shot well. And then yesterday, it was just Amen Thompson and Dillon Brooks. Like when Dillon Brooks is going 10 of 15 from 3, sometimes it's just not your night. He was 3 of 13 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3. Game against the Celtics, now he's going up against a much easier defense in the Hawks, whose defensive rating actually isn't that bad. They're slightly below average, but they allow the 4th most points per game to pick and roll ball handlers. That's where the majority of Jaylen Green's points come from. They allow the most made above the break 3-pointers. That's the shot on the floor where the majority of Jaylen Green's points come from. And they allow the 4th most points in the restricted area. That's the shot zone that he scores the 2nd majority of his points. So there's just a ton of good factors in favor of Jaylen Green. And I like the fact that, again, fade recent results, positive regression, all that stuff, considering he hasn't shot well in 3 of the last 4 games. So Jaylen Green, 25 plus points. The price on that, I got it at plus 140. Right now, you can get it at plus 125, and I would still take it there.
Jaylen Green over 20 or 25 plus points, plus 125. Chris, anything here?
Man, you know what, Kyle? The way you sum this game up is exactly the way I think about it. Like it's like verbatim, pretty much. Like everything that you said, the rest, the fatigue, the travel situation. The only thing I did slightly disagree with you on, because I'm not playing this game, especially without knowing if Trae Young is going to play, is I think it's a little bit more of a rest advantage for Houston than it is Atlanta, even if Trae Young comes back. And the reason I say that is because this is the makeup game. So I think it was 2 Saturdays ago. This is the game that got canceled because the little bit of snow that they got in Atlanta, they moved it for this one. So I think this is like 6 game and 9 nights for Atlanta. And they've been kind of really running out of gas. Then you failed to mention this, Cal, but also no Jalen Johnson. You don't really want to bet Atlanta. I know that they covered last night against Minnesota, but we know Minnesota's not a team that cares about covering at home. 4-15 against the number as a home favorite this season. So I looked at Atlanta I looked at the Rockets coming off a win as a dog, and they typically play pretty well in the next game. They are 7-0 to the over, though. So if you like the over, there's something. The reason why I couldn't get there with the over, because Atlanta all of a sudden forgot how to score the basketball. So maybe there's some Jalen Johnson stuff. I know Trae Young has been in and out of the rotation. Atlanta just seems a little banged up to me. And on top of all of that, I look at Houston, and granted, they've been balling. They just beat the Cleveland Cavaliers twice and the Boston Celtics in their last 3 games. And they played the 4th most difficult schedule over the last 5 games. So I kind of feel like they can keep it going. Maybe potentially getting up and over their team total is a way that I would look. But this is another game I'm definitely not playing without knowing the status of Trae Young.
Yeah, I'm not betting this shit either. Let's move on to the next one. Prop Beaver's back.
Me and Moto are actually on the same play in this one.
Wow.
And personally, I like the injury news we just got. Did you just see all of it?
Yeah, the whole team's out.
I like the news, and I'll tell you why. So we're both on Steph Curry over assists here. And Walker Kessler and John Collins are specifically out. That's who I really like is out. And the main reason why I like that is because Curry has a very high concentration of his assists to the rim and to the paint. 64% of his assists go to that range. I mean, we just saw yesterday. I mean, I think Giannis, Damian Lillard, and Taurean Prince combined for, I think it was 24 assists. It was a free-for-all out there, just passing it up to that area of the court. And the main reason why we really like Mr. Steph Curry in the spot. 1 second, let me go ahead and pull up the Discord notes really quickly. The main reason why we really like Curry in the spot is that he's 5-3 to the over this season without Draymond. He's hit 7+ in 7 to 8 games, averaging 8.5. So he's been competitive with the line pretty much every single time. In those games, Curry hit 12+ potential assists in all but one. They didn't track it in the Sacramento game, but considering he had 12+ actual assists in that game, I'm going to assume he had 12+ potentials. With 12+ potentials this season, 10-4 to the over. He's averaging 8+ real assists. And Utah's allowed the 4th most assists per game to point guards over the last 30 days. Again, biggest concern to us here is the massive spread. We learned that with Gafford yesterday. Unfortunately, my people who got the 26.5 and 27.5, they didn't cash that. People in Discord who got 25.5 did. That's just the way the NBA works. But with 10+ potential assists in double-digit wins this season, Curry's actually 4-1 to the over, averaging 9 assists. So it may actually be better if this gets ugly. They commit to stopping Curry and they force the teammates to run them off the court. So I'm going to take our chances here at the plus price. I know me and Modai got actually reverse CLV here because I got at plus 115 this morning. I think so did he, and now it's at plus 125 around. I don't care. I still love this play.
Steph Curry, 8+ assists, both of you on it. Didn't spend more than 7 seconds looking at this game. Don't care. Don't care to talk about it. Chris, give us a breakdown of this one.
All right. So if we're looking for a breakdown on this one, Kyle, the way that I would play it, and I'm not betting it either. I do the same thing you do, Kyle, but I just try to have something for the people, even if I don't have a play. If I had to proverbial gun to my head and I had to make a play here, it would be the Golden State Warriors team total to go up and over. You can get 120.5 right now. I know the only concern is that they do have OKC tomorrow coming in on the second leg of a back-to-back, but we've seen this Utah Jazz defense, specifically as double-digit dogs, get absolutely murdered. So here's the situation for the Utah Jazz here, and you don't see this too often. They went on the road. They played 4 straight road games. They have 1 day in between. They came home. They played 1 game last night against the Milwaukee Bucks. Immediately back on the road again with no rest in between. So you go on the road for 4, you come home for 1, only 1 day in between, and right back on the road for a second leg of a back-to-back. That's a very, very unprofitable situation. About 43% hit rate over the course of the last 20 years in the Killer Sports database. Here's the argument for Golden State to get up and over their total. So as a double-digit favorite this season, which they've been twice, they've not covered either one. They didn't cover against the Wizards. That was last week. They didn't cover against the Nets. Actually lost that game outright. But they scored 120 in both games. The Jazz, as double-digit road dogs this season, 13 times. The 8-5 to the over. They've given up 125 to the Grizzlies. That was last week. To the Thunder. That was last week. 123 to the Pelicans. 136 to the Pelicans. So if Golden State's ever going to break out of any kind of offensive slump, this is going to be the game. So 120.5 is their team total. I think they fly up and over this number today. And another reason, just cherry on top, I guess, would be the rim protection. So one thing about, and Kyle, this is why you liked Utah so much last season, is that Utah is not a great defensive team. What they do a really good job of is they rebound the basketball. Rebounding is a part of defense. When you take out John Collins, when you take out Lauri Markkanen, when you take out Walker Kessler, there isn't that Filipowski. There's not that much rim protection. So not only Golden State should be able to dominate the boards here, they should be able to get second chance opportunities, hit a bunch of threes, probably play with a bunch of pace as well. And I think they get to about 124, 125 here. So that would be the play. I didn't play team total though. You can get some 120.5. It's open 119.5. It's up to 121, I think, on some books. So that would be the play. I'm not betting this game either. Okay.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, and I must give a shout out to David Barney in the comments. Once his line comes out, Senzagoat might be a good look again. What do you think about that, Kyle?
Trust me, I have my finger to the pulse of the Sensaball market, and you need one of Keontae George or Colin Sexton and Collier out. You can't have all 3 on. His usage rate skyrockets when those guys are out. So you need 1 or 2 of those pieces out. With all 3 of them on, it's too risky. I'll tell you when to pull the trigger on Senzagoat. This ain't it.
I mean, there's 55 guys out tonight, and you're telling me those 3.
They're all in the front court. Dude, just don't play Sensaball until I tell you. How about that?
The power forward, small forward needs the point
No,
guard
he's
to be out.
he plays on the perimeter, bro. He doesn't play like that.
Okay.
His usage rate skyrockets.
Sorry, Dylan. Sorry, Dell. Don't play him tonight.
Yeah.
Rob Beaver, you know that there's no flexibility in positions. If you're a point guard, you have to stick to the point guard.
It's true. You're right.
I'm telling you
positionless basketball.
When to bet Sensaball. I'm telling you when to bet Sensaball. You bet him when those guards are out because his usage skyrockets. I know all things Sensaball, bro.
Hey, look, hey, probably, but this is why you can't let Cal start handicapping props. Look what he turns into.
'Cause it's a
He's
fucking
been doing it
rap.
for 2 weeks.
It's become a
He's
prop
been
show.
doing it for 2 weeks.
This
Look
is
at
a
him.
prop show now. Yeah.
I don't have my finger to the pulse of the prop market. I have my finger to the pulse of the sense ball market. I'll tell you when to pull the trigger. Not now. Anyway, Milwaukee, Portland. Blazers the fuck up, man. 6.5 I got last night. Did bet this one. Portland's been playing some ball, man, and by no means am I trying to diminish what Milwaukee's doing. They're playing well. In the last 10 games, 6th in offensive rating, 9th in defensive rating. So in the last 10 games, Milwaukee's been a top 10 offensive team and defensive team. They played a bit of a weak schedule. They're 21st in strength of schedule in that span. Meanwhile, don't look now. The Portland Trailblazers are first in defensive rating in their last 5 games. Yes, there's some questionable games in there, but this Portland team is playing some ball right now. They are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5. That's 5-0. 5 straight covers for the Blazers. You got Milwaukee coming off a back-to-back, traveling to Portland. Let me check the injury report to see if there's an update. Now, Ayton is still questionable. Obviously, I'd love to see him out there. But even if he's unable to go, Klingen's playing. You got all those guards playing. Simon, you got Avicii playing. So, yeah, I think Portland's the play. The way they've been playing some ball. 5-0 against the spread in their last 5. How up does Milwaukee get for this one? Coming out of the elevation in Utah last night. No days off. Immediately fly to Portland to play a rested Blazers team that's got 5 straight covers. I think Portland could potentially win it outright, but they're obviously just such a talent discrepancy between these two teams. Milwaukee's just got a lot more talent. By the way, Bobby Portis has been ruled out. AJ Green has been ruled out. Is Andre Jackson is playing. He got suspended last night, but he's going to play, by the way, on the Milwaukee side.
Ejected, Kyle.
What did I say?
He said suspended.
Oh, I meant ejected. I fucked that up. I meant.
I always say stuff like that on my show.
Yeah. So, I think it's a good spot to bet the Blazers. I'm on plus 6.5. Got it last night.
Go ahead, Moda.
I'm on Anthony Simon's points. I got over 19.5. You can still get that at minus 125, or you could go 20.5 for still minus 108. At that point, I'd rather just go 19.5. But it's a matchup against the Bucks, 7th most points allowed to the pick and roll ball handler. Over the last 10 games, they've allowed the most attempted above the break 3-pointers, and they've allowed the 2nd most made. And that's kind of the style of the Bucks defense. It wasn't quite that case at the beginning of the year, but it's kind of starting to work out that way. 51% of the shots from Anthony Simons come from the above the break 3-pointer. And again, the Bucks are the worst defense at allowing the attempts over the last 10 games, 2nd most made. Correlated to that, they allow the 4th most made pull-up 3-pointers. Anthony Simons clearly takes the most. That's the majority of his game is pull-up shots, as the kitty says hello. And 4 of 6 guys similar to Anthony Simons have hit the over against the Bucks by an average of about 3.5 points above what their over-under is priced at. The 2 that missed was actually Tyler Hero did it twice. So the other 4 for 4. For whatever reason, Tyler Hero doesn't perform well against the Bucks. But yeah, Anthony Simons over 19.5 points in this one.
Moda, do you own blinds in your house?
I do. I don't have blackout blinds. So they're too. The light shines through them, as you can see. So I need to get better ones down here.
Yeah, I could see. You're gonna get sunburn on the stream.
The thing is, it's literally only from 4 to 5, which happens to be when you do your show. Like if we did this show at 5, it wouldn't be a problem. But this hour is when it's bad.
Yeah, that's fine. Chris.
Cal, so everything you said makes sense, and I would love to be on Portland here. Here's my problem. Milwaukee, for whatever reason, can't seem to figure Portland out, and that scares me here. The last time that they played was earlier this season. I was on Portland team total under, and I cashed even though they won the game outright. So you got the Bucks here with revenge. You mentioned them being top 10.
How much do they care about revenge against the Blazers, though?
I think so. That's the thing, though, Kyle. Like, I feel like they're on a little bit of a vengeance tear recently. And then we've seen
Portland is on their list? Portland.
Because they lost. So they haven't just lost to Portland this time. Portland's actually beaten them the last 2 times that they played. We know Dame is going back home.
I was just going to say, did Dame play for Portland?
But he
didn't leave on bad terms.
No, but that's not the thing, though. He missed the game winner earlier this season. They lost 105-102 in Milwaukee. Right, so I like under more than anything else. For whatever reason, Portland matches up really well with the Milwaukee Bucks. So I'm not saying that you're on the wrong side. I think you're on the right side, especially if you got a little CLV, which for me is always trash. But for you, it seems to work out well. So I'm happy for you. So plus 6.5, I think is the right side. I like under a little bit more because, like I said, I think it is a little more matchup dependent. Their first game was 228. They finished with 207. There's been 4 straight unders. Like not just this game, but the recent matchups last season. It's a Portland team that looks the same, pretty similar. It's also a Bucks team that looks pretty similar to last year as well. You subtract Bobby Portis, which is the offensive guy. I think that this game goes under. You also got a little bit of regression coming here for Portland. I was on the team total under on Sunday when they played against OKC. They shot 45% from the three-point line. Now, when is Portland ever shooting 45% from the three-point line? Kamara hit 5 of 5 threes. So we're expecting a little bit of offensive regression here. This did come down from 231, 230.5 down to 229, 228. So I like under a little bit more. Still haven't locked it in. On top of all of that, even with the back-to-back for the Bucks, you got a Portland team that's playing their 7-game in 11 nights. So I like this one to stay under. I think it's a little bit of fatigue for both teams.
Someone said, "What's CLB?" It's CLV. It's closing line value.
It's the worst thing ever. That's the easiest way to describe it. If you're
no, that's so
fool's gold.
It means nothing.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Stop being crazy. It definitely does. What happens was you're hearing these people on the stream. You get CLV. Sometimes you lose the bet, and it's frustrating because you feel like you should have won that bet more so than another bet. So you could get CLV on 11 bets, go 6-5, and it'll feel like you went 0-11 because those 5 losses you felt like you didn't deserve. It's all the power of perception. But yeah, closing line value, like for example, in this game, I bet Portland plus 6.5 last night, and it's now at 5.5. That would be considered positive closing line value, usually indicative of long-term winning, somebody who's seeing the market clearly. Yes, it's not a perfect system, and a closing line value loses very often, as you'll hear people say.
So this is why I interject, Cal, because I had Orlando money line yesterday that ended up closing 1.5, 2, so a couple of points of value. I also had Denver early minus 7.5. I think they closed at 9. They also lost the game almost by double digits. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, hold on. Yeah, individual instances. I'm talking about over the thousands and thousands of data points. It's indicative of long-term winning. Again, I'm not saying closing line value never loses. Of course it does. In fact, there's month spans where the market's not seeing it clearly and closing line value is losing. But over time, it's indicative of long-term winning. I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm not a CLV preached by preacher or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But it's at least indicative. If you're not getting closing line value to take it to the next level, I would say, for example, in the Super Bowl, I like the under. It's opened at 48.5, 49.5. It touched 50 there. In addition to just getting closing line value, it's good to be familiar with the market so you get the best of the number. Sometimes you don't want to be on the side. If it's moving towards you can wait it out. So yeah, whatever. We don't have to have a CLV discussion, but that's what it is.
It's too late. You already did it, Kyle. That was a pretty good job too.
It just means you're reading the market correctly. That's really what it comes down to.
And reading the market correctly is important. Maybe not necessarily getting closing line value, but seeing the market correctly is important.
Yeah, but then you can still take L's like me. So,
of course, you could still take L's. Let's talk college basketball. Make sure you follow Actually, you'll see these guys tomorrow, and they can tell you where. I want to get to college basketball. I have 3 college basketball bets. There's a lot of good games. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Best of luck tonight, fellas. Appreciate you, Kyle.
Both those guys have their own YouTube channels, Modi and Chris, if you want to check them out. Chris is. Modi's Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Yeah, it's because that's why he's a slacker. He he did have his hat on like Nelly.
Like he just needed the little fake Band-Aid right there.
I thought that was a real Band-Aid Nelly used to rock.
Maybe it was.
Where's he getting a fake Band-Aid from? From a prop store.
Okay, a real wound. By fake Band-Aid, he means a real wound. Was it a real wound?
Who gives a shit? Let's go. St. John's, Georgetown.
We get it. You hate Nelly.
No, I didn't know he hated.
He was a hell of a running back in that movie, though. St. John's, Georgetown, toast. You did what you said you were going to do last night. You said you're going to wait and try to get Georgetown at a better number. Last night it was 4.5, and I saw you got Georgetown plus 5.5. So you did exactly what you said you were going to do.
Yep. I did. I'm just not really super high on the St. John's team personally. Obviously they've played extremely well. They only have 3 losses on the year. Baylor, a double overtime loss in OT. And that game, I mean, could have went either way. They probably should have won that game. And then they had a little bit of a clunker against Georgia, but again, they only lost that game by 3. And then on the road to Creighton. But my point to that is that they haven't really been tested on the road. Not that I feel like Georgetown's going to be some huge test for them, but St. John's in true away games. They lost to Creighton, like I talked about. They beat Providence in a game that really was a coin flip. They won that game on the last second shot. And then they went in and then they beat Seton Hall, who's a pretty bad basketball team. So I'm not at a point where I trust St. John's on the road And here today, they're playing a Georgetown team that has been up and down, to say the least. But at the same time, you take a look at who they've played in conference: Marquette, UConn, this St. John's team, Providence at the dunk. I think this is a really good spot for Georgetown to at least back them to keep this game close, coming off of that Providence disaster, which no one really expected them to win. I just feel like Georgetown can slow this game down. I think they can match up with St. John's as far as rebounding wise. St. John's defensively has been absolutely a juggernaut. Like I want make sure that everybody understands that St. John's rebounding, defense, all that stuff, that's exactly what you want, and that's exactly what they're doing. It's just offensively, they're just terrible. And I think that Georgetown's defense and St. John's defense are kind of comparable. Obviously, St. John's is better, but I also think that St. John's offense isn't that much better than Georgetown's. And I do think that Georgetown's numbers are a little bit worse with Sorber missing a couple games, Epps missing a couple games, and now all these guys are kind of back and ready to go. I think that we see a pretty decent night out of Malik Mack tonight. That's kind of like my guy on Georgetown. He's had a kind of a rough couple, 3 or 4 games with whatnot. The DePaul game was all right, but I think Mack has a good night tonight. I just think that Georgetown keeps it close. Like I said, I'm just not a fan of what I've seen from this Johnny's team. I respect what they've done, and I think that in the tournament it's going to pay dividends. But on a night-to-night basis, I'm just really not there, especially in a true road game. So I took Georgetown at +5.5.
Nah, I like Johnny's here. I didn't bet this one, though. Actually, my 3 college basketball bets are in the second half. We're doing 10 games, and they're all in the second half, so the first 5 are just passes for me, but I do think St. John's wins that one comfortably. By the way, someone in the comments, Jay Rome, the Nelly's Band-Aid was a symbol for a family member that was in jail. He did not need a stunt double for the longest yard. So, yeah, there you go. It was not a real wound. It was a symbol.
Respect to Nelly.
Appreciate the comment. What's up? Kentucky, Tennessee. All right, if you're wondering why this line's going crazy, as explained to me last night from Trevor and Toast on the midnight stream, Kentucky's missing 2 important pieces here. Not to mention, I mean, we are talking about on the road in Tennessee. Very tough place to play. So I guess I get why the sharp action is buying this number up to 10.5. I believe it was 9.5 last night when we did the stream. It's now into double digits. I still think it's a little crazy. If you remember, if you subscribe to this channel for longer than since last season, me and Toast hit Kentucky money line a couple times when there was this pattern. Kentucky when underdogs of 6 points or more, and I'm just guessing on the number. I don't know it exactly. They were like 7-2 outright. So not just 7-2 against the spread, but Kentucky.
I think it was 5.5. I think that was like
was it 5.5? Yeah, it was
something like that. Maybe 6. Yeah, you're right. Probably no point.
Well, the trend was Kentucky as an underdog, as a significant underdog. They usually win the game outright, not just cover. And me and Toast played it twice, and we hit like a +410 money line and a +320 money line back to back. So you could put Kentucky up for me, just because.
Me as well.
Just because like that was too good to me last year for me to turn my back on it. That being said, a lot of that data comes from the Calipari era. We're talking about a different Kentucky team now.
Counterpoint, 3-0 this year as an underdog, straight up NATS.
Trev got Tennessee at 9 too. Vandenbosch.
If this hits 11, I'm in. Probably going to sprinkle at 10.5 just a little bit. I just feel like this number's getting out of hand. I get that Andrew Carr is a very, very good basketball player, and taking out Lamont Butler really sucks. But I do think that this Kentucky team is pretty damn good. Even without those 2 players, I still think they're going to be able to score. And I'm still at a point with Tennessee where I don't know what to think of them. Obviously, Tennessee's a very good team. Not trying to make a case that they're not. But again, if Chaz Lanier is kind of playing somewhat okay, then yeah, they're a really good basketball team. But what have we seen in their losses? I mean, 10 points against Florida, a loss. 10 points against Auburn, and a loss. Look somewhat decent, I guess, against Vandy. Went 1 for 5 from the field, 4 for 6 from deep. I don't really think that he's a 4 for 6 from deep shooter. And they still lost that game. So he had a really good game against Mississippi State. But again, if you take him out of the picture and you're forced to have all these other guys beat you, I think that matters a lot. I also think that, this Kentucky team is going to be able to get buckets in transition. It doesn't matter if Carr and Butler aren't playing. They're still going to push the pace. And not to mention the fact that Mark Pope is one of the most detailed head coaches in the country. So it would really surprise me if Kentucky's not ready for what Tennessee is about to do offensively. And I don't think that anybody would argue that you don't really have to worry about Kentucky with scoring. So I just feel like this number is just way too high. Even with the injuries, I would say 8 would be the most I would lay with Tennessee. Again, not trying to take anything away from what they've done, but Kentucky's defense is really bad, sure, but so is Tennessee's offense. So I'm just not at a point where I'm trying to lay over double digits with this Tennessee team, even with a hobbled Kentucky team. So like I said, I'm not in at 10.5, but if it gets to 11, it ticks up against 11 and I can throw a middle finger to the world, I'll probably take Kentucky.
I'd be lying if I said I'm not considering throwing a few dollars on Kentucky.
It's getting to a point where I was like, okay, cool. Just keep testing it. Go ahead.
Speaking of fading the world, Toast, the comments hated your bet here. And not just during the stream. There were comments after the stream.
I think I might be. I sent Jeffrey Benson a DM. I just want to see if he's wrote one Wake Forest ticket today. I'm not sure if he has.
I think you're the only one in the world on Wake, bro.
So this is just me saying screw the world. And I placed Wake at 8. It's at 9.5 now. Don't care. You can keep the half a point. It might even get to 10 and I still don't care. Sure. Louisville's in a really, it's just a matter of if you believe in this Louisville team or not. Louisville's in a great spot. They haven't played for a week. They've had a week to figure out how to prep against this Wake Forest team. Wake Forest is coming off a crazy weekend where they played North Carolina and Duke. They played that Duke team really, really tough, and it came in a loss. There's no way in hell this team can get up and play the Louisville freaking Cardinals. There's no way in hell Louisville's going to win by 50 points. Like, get out of here, man. Like, Louisville's been really good. Again, not trying to take what they do, but just stop me when you hear an impressive win. SMU, Virginia, Syracuse, Pittsburgh, I'll give you that one. Clemson, sure. Virginia, no. North Carolina sucks. Eastern Kentucky, Florida State, UTEP, Winthrop, Bellarmine. West Virginia was a decent one. But, again, has Louisville played really good? Yes. Are they a decent basketball team? Yes. But, again, should they be laying over 9 points right now against a Wake Forest team that I will give you hasn't been fantastic, but has really started to find their way, especially after that Texas A&M loss? They really found their way. I know they lost a road game against Clemson, but again, I just feel like this number is way out of whack. Again, we'll see what happens. Louisville's been an absolute moneymaker, so it's really hard for me to just argue against it. But I knew coming into this that the world would be on Louisville. I was hoping that the number stayed around 8. That would have made me a little bit more confident. Now that this number's moved, it doesn't help me as much. But again, if Louisville comes in here and hits a whole bunch of threes, so be it. But I think that Wake's going to try to slow this game down to an absolute crawl if they possibly can and make Louisville beat them in the half court. And I'm not sure if that's something that they do. Keep in mind, Wake Forest is the number 2 defense in the conference right now. So it's not like Wake Forest can't play defense. So if Louisville is struggling from outside, which they've shown ability to do so, I think that Wake Forest can stay in this game. So again, I took Wake Forest plus 8. It's at 9.5 now. I do not care if the world wins, so be it. But like I said, everybody in the world is betting Louisville. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And when you listed off a bunch of teams, we talk about Louisville's opponents. Juice says Wake's in the same tier as all those teams. And then Vanderboss said the same exact thing.
I agree. I would agree with that. But I would. You guys can also say that Wake Forest is also playing. Here, you want some fruit snack? Wake Forest is also playing much better as well. So I also think that them playing Duke very, very tough matters a lot. So home or on the road, I think that gives this team a little bit more confidence than people are giving them credit for. We'll see.
Let's move on to the next one, and we're getting close to we get to my bets. This is not one of them. Trev was loving Seton Hall in the stream last night. So I'm going to try to paraphrase what he said last night. Providence coming off the biggest win of the year where they were partying. You're going to get a hungover Providence team going on the road. Seton Hall wins an ugly one was pretty much summarized his reasoning. But Vanderbosch on the midnight stream likes Seton Hall a lot in this one. I personally can't bet it. Seton Hall's a New Jersey team. So I am incapable of participating. But yeah,
that was another great moment of the midnight stream. You were trying to find bets, and then you couldn't bet the one that he loved the most.
Yeah, I was like, guys, try to find me something. We were like 4 games in, and I was like, guys, you guys aren't giving me anything good. And Trevor's like, I got one for you, and then he gives it. Nope, Seton Hall can't bet it.
Can't do it. I agree with Trevor. I played Seton Hall as well. When I first looked at this line, when I heard he said Seton Hall, I thought it was different. I thought it was like more like a pick, but getting at least a full possession with Seton Hall is definitely a play for me. I did bet it. And the thing with Providence is really simple. Like, you can trust them at the dunk. I don't trust them anywhere away from home. Their road games this year in conference, they lost by Villanova by 2. That was kind of like their best one. They lost to Creighton by 20. Connecticut was a decent one as well. But again, they just really haven't performed really well on the road. Rhode Island was another one. I just don't trust this Providence team on the road at all. So again, is Seton Hall really, really bad? Yes, there's no question about that. But I think this is going to be a slow, grinded out, ugly sort of game. And again, I just don't trust Providence on the road. So I took Seton Hall plus 3.5 or 3.5 or 4. I don't remember what it was, but I'm still pretty sure it's around that same number right now. So yeah, again, the only thing really worries me about, I mean, maybe if Providence defense shows up here today, but Seton Hall plays very similar to the defense that Providence does. I'm just not worried about it. I think these two teams are a lot more even than people give them credit for. I think people like Providence because of the story behind them, but as in general, but we'll see.
Someone said you can't bet on teams in your own state. Yeah, for college sports, I can't bet on Rutgers football either. So Seton Hall, Rutgers, St. Peter's, anything that's Monmouth. Well, yeah, anything that's in New Jersey, collegiate.
Poughkeepsie.
I almost said it too. I almost said Poughkeepsie. Next up, dude. One more, and then we finally get to my bets. I got 3 of them. We haven't gotten to any yet. Toast is on Dayton in this one. I know that. Took the money line. What'd you get the money line at?
130. It should be about the same. It hasn't moved.
I think it's higher than that now. Oh no, it's about the same. No, it's about the same.
No, ride your bike. I really like Dayton here today. I know that every sharp in the world and every Twitter account in the world is on St. Bonaventure today. It doesn't really bother me. I think that St. Bonaventure hasn't played very good basketball. I know they've dealt with some injuries, but at the same time, like for instance, let's just go with Chance Moore. He did not play against George Mason. Played 39 minutes against VCU. Was all right, but I mean, he wasn't like fantastic against Richmond the first time. He wasn't fantastic against LaSalle. He wasn't really good against Fordham or VCU and whatnot. So this idea that Chance Moore being back and healthy and the St. Bonnies are going to be back is just a fallacy to me. Against a Dayton team that, again, looked really good to start the year, and then January hit and they kind of had a lull where they lost 4 or 5 games. But I think that after that George Mason loss was an absolute wake-up call at home. And then they faced Loyola Chicago, and it's almost like they had a little bit of a hangover, and then they ended up figuring out that win and pulling it out. And then they come out and they destroy Duquesne on the road. They come back and beat a really good St. Joseph's team, and now they go back on the road to the Bonnies, where I get a lot of people like playing the Bonnies at home, but I just think that Dayton's a far better team here, much better team, regardless of the Bonnies dealing with injuries or not, especially in conference play. Both of these defenses are pretty terrible, but you have Dayton, one of the best three-point shooting teams in the best three-point shooting teams in the conference, one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country, facing a same Bonaventure team that's the worst in the conference at defending that. And they also put teams at the foul line a lot. So every team or everybody in the world that I know is on St. Bonaventure. I'm on my own island today with Dayton. Dayton's probably going to be the public side as well. I don't really care. I honestly think that Dayton is at least 5-6 points better than St. Bonaventure at home or on a road. So I played Dayton on the money line.
Let's get to a real game, please. Next. Here we go.
What's the real game? Oh, okay.
Here we go.
Oh, got it. All right.
I like this one.
I'll let you take the floor on this one because you got the best better.
Yeah. UCF plus 13.5 in this one.
What's the number now? If it's down to 13 or 12.5,
it is down.
Okay.
Come on, man. You know, CLV King over here.
Okay. So I got CLV King in this sport, and I lose all the time.
So I got UCF plus 13.5 last night. Everyone's going to hate this bet. Everyone's going to hate it.
I don't hate it, just for the record. I didn't play Kansas
last night. You said
but
Kansas or pass last night.
I know, but I don't hate your bet because I know the world's going to be on Kansas. I'm not betting UCF, but I'm sure as hell not betting Kansas at that number.
Trevor laughed when I shared the ticket in the Discord last night. He laughed. So I'm on UCF plus 13.5. Hear me out. So everyone's looking at how these two teams just played. January 5th. So we're talking 3 weeks ago. Kansas beat them by 50 points. 50.
On the road.
Yes. So Kansas just beat UCF 3 weeks ago by 50 points. Got it. Other than that, a lot of data points I like here from Central Florida. Let's look at their road games. Went on the road to Arizona, played them to single digits. On the road to Arizona State, they won. You got a tough game on the road at Iowa State there. They also beat Texas Tech and Lubbock. So it's not like we haven't seen this team play well. In fact, other than that Kansas beatdown, there's really only been one other bad game. They've been pretty competitive.
Also, just to your point, they also played a 1-point game against Houston, who's the best team or one of the best teams in the country as well. Home or on the road, that's an impressive game.
Lost to Houston 69-68. So this UCF team is not a pushover. They're not a bad team. They got their ass beat by Kansas 3 weeks ago, but they're not a bad team. They've gone on the road, played tough games against good teams, played Houston at one point. They've played tough. This is not a bad team. Now they go on the road to Kansas. Yes, a team that just beat them by 50. You got Kansas with Baylor and Iowa State on deck. Two much more important conference. This is not a real Big 12 game for Kansas. This is a real Big 12 game for UCF. They're welcome to the conference. Kansas doesn't give a shit about UCF.
Well, Kansas should, because they're 5-3 in conference. It's not like they're the same Kansas, but I get your point.
The two games after this are much more important for Kansas. You got this home game against UCF, a team whatever. And then you got Baylor and Iowa State, two of their bigger conference rivals on deck. A team that they just beat by 50 points. But not to mention, let's not act like Kansas is like shit is sweet with Kansas this year. This is like the worst Kansas team we've seen in a while. UCF plays them to the wire here. Give me the points plus 13.5. Everyone's going to hate it.
Yeah. So for me, especially after being on, and this, I mean, part of it maybe because I bet Kansas, but what I saw that last, well, I guess into regulation, into both overtimes from Kansas is just, I'll never forget that. That was just one of the worst in-game situations ever. I think Trevor even told us last night. I don't remember what the percentage was, but it was like the worst possible outcome it could ever be or something like that. So I don't really trust this Kansas team in general. I never have. I do think that they were extremely talented, but whatever it is, it's not meshing. I will say that this is the same type of spot that they had UCF in before, except obviously that other UCF game was on the road, but they had just gotten beat at home in an embarrassing fashion by West Virginia, and then they had to go on the road. They beat UCF by 4. Obviously, they just got beat by Houston, so now they play UCF at home. But as Kyle mentioned, UCF hasn't been a pushover, and the teams that they've played, they've been playing some really good teams as well. So again, it's not like they're playing the lower half of the Big 12 schedule. So again, there's just no chance in hell that I would lay this many numbers with Kansas, especially when, if you look at Kansas, they haven't really been super dominant at home. A 10-point win against Kansas State at home. They really killed Arizona State. Good for them, but I just tossed. They lost to West Virginia at home. NC State, they won by 15, but NC State's like really, really bad. And that game wasn't even that bad. So they had a couple nice little runs, but it wasn't like anything crazy. So I don't think that Kansas being at home really does anything for me right now, that the way that they've played. So if I had to lean, it would be UCF as well. I'm not playing this game. But
I am.
There's no chance in hell I'm laying 13 plus with Kansas. No way in hell.
This is a 1-point game with 2 minutes left. Kansas ended up winning by 7. Next up. So I actually just tailed Trev on this one because he gave such a compelling speech about Pittsburgh. So I'm on Pitt, but I got the worst of the number. I got minus 3.5 last night. But again, it's not something that I wasn't the creator here. What Trev said last night on the Midnight Show, something about North Carolina. Every single time they've seen elevated competition, they've gotten smacked around. They've almost gotten like exposed to be. I mean, not a good basketball team. Every single time they've seen upper tier competition, they've shit the bed, and Pittsburgh is a physical team. I'm paraphrasing what was said last night on the show. So I just tailed with Pitt. The play I like the UCF play, and then I like the next game too. This one I'm just tailing somebody, but I did bet Pittsburgh minus 3.5. Got the worst of the number.
Yeah, just to your point, I paired Pittsburgh and Texas A&M money lines together at plus 103 because I didn't think.
Oh yeah, you had that parlay, right? Pitt
but
and Texas A&M.
Yeah, I would play Pitt too. You can put Pitt up for me too, Beaver, because there's no chance in hell it'd be North Carolina for me. To his point about North Carolina not playing anybody, I mean, you can just make it as simple as who have they beat? They beat UCLA on December 21st when by 2, and we all know that UCLA. I mean, you can take it or leave it what you think of that team, but it's really just not impressive, especially now when you look back on it. But since then, I mean, they've beaten Campbell, Notre Dame, SMU, NC State, Cal, and Boston College in overtime. They probably should have lost to Boston College. But teams that they've lost to, Florida, Louisville, Stanford, Wake Forest. I mean, this isn't just this. This isn't your normal North Carolina team that you're used to. And sure, you can look at Pittsburgh, who's lost 4 of their last 5 games, but 2 of them were to Duke and Louisville, which again, probably most teams aren't going to lose that, aren't going to win those games. They lost to Clemson by 3 in overtime at home, and then they go on the road and have a pretty good win against Syracuse. That was like a closer game than I thought it was going to be. I knew a lot of people on Syracuse. I think they were plus 7, but that game was close throughout. But Pitt did a very good job of closing that game out. And now they face a North Carolina team. But oh, by the way, North Carolina has Duke on deck, which I hate for them. But yeah, I just think that Pittsburgh's the much better team here, and I don't even think it's really close. I know the KenPom has them a little bit closer than normal, but the only thing that North Carolina has really done is play really good defense, and I do think that Pittsburgh should be able to play a competent level of offense against them because they've also seen other solid defenses as well. North Carolina number 48 on KenPom, but they've also seen teams like Clemson at 44, Florida State 46, Louisville 47, Duke at 3, Mississippi State, Ohio State, all those teams in the top 30 as far as defensive efficiency. So I have a hard time believing that anything that North Carolina is going to throw at Pittsburgh, they're not going to be ready for. So yeah, again, Pittsburgh at home has been a pretty damn decent good bet as well. I mean, again, the Louisville and Clemson's games, they both lost, but they were both of those games, they were in them very close. And I would go to say that Louisville and Clemson are both significantly better than North Carolina at this point in the season. So another thing that I love about Pittsburgh, a fantastic free throw shooting team, second best free throw shooting team in the conference. So if this game is close late, I'll take the home team that can really hits their free throws at almost 84%. So yeah, I'm on Pitt as well.
Let's go to the next game. And I like what you said last night in this one. I got Colorado at -1.5 last night. And I think me and Toast are both on Colorado, actually.
Yep.
So Toast was describing, and I'll let him do it, but you were talking about how Colorado's been a terrible home team, and then you described their opponents, and it's like they finally have a winnable game at home. They've kind of been through the gauntlet with their home schedule, so you got a team that struggled at home, finally seeing a winnable game at home, and I like that.
Yeah, it's exactly what I said. And it's for me, it's just you take a look at who Colorado has placed or who Colorado has played at home in conference play. They lost by Iowa State by 10. The number was 10.5 to start, got bought back down, whatever. They played Iowa State very, very close. Then they played a West Virginia team who, keep in mind, West Virginia, I continue to say it's one of the best teams that nobody knows or nobody wants to talk about. They've lost their last 2, so maybe that will change. But keep in mind, West Virginia has wins over Iowa State, Kansas, Georgetown, Arizona, Gonzaga. I mean, so it's not like, again, West Virginia is a bad basketball team. Then they played a Cincinnati team that Cincinnati was desperate. Cincinnati is a lot better team than Colorado. Cincinnati is a very good defensive team. And they almost stole that game away closer to the end. Cincinnati ended up pulling it out. And then Colorado has to play a BYU team at home, that BYU team that offensively one of the better teams in the country, and they just really couldn't hold up. But now they face an Arizona State team that, like I've said and Kyle just said, they finally have a game that they can win. Arizona State not only has Arizona on deck, which is a huge rivalry game for them. Being on the road hasn't really treated them well. They lost to Cincinnati, they lost to Kansas, they lost to BYU, but this is only going to be their 4th true road game of the year. So I don't really like that spot for them. Both these teams are very similar as far as styles is concerned. Neither one of them are really good defensively. I guess Arizona State's a little bit better defensively, but I would argue that for me personally, I take Colorado's offense a little bit more. I know that Arizona State's is a little bit ranked a little bit higher, but you have a Colorado team that's going to be a lot bigger than Arizona State as well. Not not to mention a lot deeper as well. Arizona plays like 5-6 guys. Colorado's going to play close to 8-9 guys. And I think that Colorado's height's going to matter here as far as rebounding. Neither one of these teams has really done a good job of rebounding, but Colorado's like a top 10 team in the country as far as height's concerned. So they have multiple guys like Baskin 6'9", Malone 6'10", that Dak kid 6'11", Jamwowski 6'8". I mean, all these guys are 6'8", 6'9". The only guy that's not 6'9" or 6'8" is that Hammond kid. That's really good for them that can score. So again, and then as always, as I like to talk about, we have a close game. We have the home team that shoots free throws at over 75%. You have an away team in Arizona that's barely shooting 70% from the line as a team. So I'll take the home team in a good spot. They can hit their free throws to win the game.
So people ask about the Michigan State game. We went through it last night. Nobody had a bet in it. Toast said Michigan State or pass. So that's the way I'm doing it. Last night we went through 16 games. We'd be live for 3 hours if we did NBA and then all the. So what I did was I take off the games where nobody has a bet or nobody has anything to say. And Toast said Michigan State or pass. He didn't feel very strongly about it. So.
I can just go tell you guys really quickly. Minnesota's won 3 straight games. Sooner or later, they're going to fall off a cliff. Michigan State continues to impress. Michigan State by 50.
Yeah. See, exactly. Yeah, so it wasn't anything that we were all in on. All right, next game.
Obviously, I'm exaggerating.
By the way, Toast, you got Colorado moneyline at -125. Caesars has it at -178 right now.
Great.
You guys are. I don't support your guys' anti-closing line value.
I'm
movement.
not anti-closing line value. I am right there, lockstep with you. I'm just telling, for me personally, in college basketball, it's been an absolute death sentence.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
So
do you understand what I'm saying about perception?
Yes, 100,000%. I agree with you 100,000%. I'm just upset.
Like, for example, CLV. We had CLV with Arizona last night.
I know, it's beautiful. I know, and we didn't get it with USC. So
exactly.
It all makes sense. Trust me, I'm 100% with you. I'm just bitter, pissed off.
When CLV wins, you don't notice it. You don't say anything about it.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying you,
exactly.
but when CLV loses, it gets talked about. That's why it's
the same thing. It's just like the Twitter accounts. I'm not going to name who they are, but people who love to fade them, they talk about how bad they are. But then if they have a winning streak, no one says anything.
Exactly. No one says anything.
It's all the same. It's all just
they'll win for 8 straight days and then lose one. It'll be like, told you, make money fading. Like, where have you been the last 2 weeks? All right, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. This is the other leg of Toast Parlay. You had Texas A&M Pitt money line, right?
Yeah, I also played Texas A&M first half as well. I don't know if Beaver, you want to type that or not. It's -4.5, but I just think this is a fantastic spot, not only to fade Oklahoma off of 2 wins against 2 of the worst teams in the SEC, and then you're getting a Texas A&M team who's been very, very impressive all year, played the 4th hardest schedule in the country, and is coming off a game where they lost after a 20-point lead at some point, and somehow allowed Texas to get back into that game. I still honestly don't know how that happened, how Texas won that game. I was on Texas, so I'll take it. But that was just that was unbelievable. I think Buzz Williams is going to have his team ready to go here today. The only reason I just didn't want to lay a whole bunch of points with Texas A&M, and I really liked Pitt as well. And then obviously Trevor liked Pitt as well, so it made it easier for me to parlay these 2 together and not have to worry about laying points. But again, Oklahoma, I can't tell you guys how bad they are. They played a really, really bad schedule to start the year. I know that they have decent wins against teams like Arizona and Louisville that look really good right now. At the time they didn't, and I don't really know if it just doesn't really impress me. The win against Michigan, we all know how volatile that team is with hitting their threes and turnovers. So just really not impressive to me. And since they've been in conference, lost to Alabama, lost to Texas A&M, lost to Georgia, lost to Texas. And then again, they beat South Carolina and Arkansas, but this is going to be a huge, huge step up in class for them. Texas A&M is a very, very good basketball team, and they're the best rebounding team in the country. It's not even close. Not to mention the fact that Oklahoma is a terrible, terrible, terrible rebounding team. So even if Texas A&M, whose offense isn't great, all they have to do is rebound the ball, which they do at like I said, at the best rate in the country. They're going to be fine. I honestly think that Texas A&M wins this game going away. I think that Oklahoma is severely overvalued because they've won a couple games here, but I think that Texas A&M wins this game by 10 plus. Having Wade Taylor back is really big for them. He's played up to 29 minutes the last 2 nights, so he's pretty much getting back to where he was prior to going out. So I really like Texas A&M here. I think that Oklahoma is extremely overrated.
Yeah, I almost tailed this one. It was -7.5 last night too. I'm seeing 9s.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the last game. And I don't know why I included this one because neither of us really liked it. I almost bet BYU.
It's because
I know
it's another situation where the world's on one side.
Yeah, so everybody was on BYU in the midnight stream, including I said I like BYU. Trev was on BYU. Juice is in the comments is on BYU. Everyone was on BYU except Toast, who said Baylor or pass. He's the only one in the world on Baylor.
I think that situationally, it's BYU by a mile. You have Baylor on the road for their second consecutive away game in the mountains because they played Utah first and then BYU. Not to mention they have Kansas on deck. So situationally, just an absolute disaster for Baylor and a definite play on situation for BYU. I just feel like this is a really, really big step up in competition for BYU. And the reason that this line is what it is because Baylor hasn't really looked good. They haven't been healthy. I don't even know if Jeremy Roach is going to play tonight or not. He hasn't played their last two games. I would really need Roach to play to actually bet Baylor. But again, talking about BYU, they win the games that they're supposed to win. They lose the games they're supposed to lose. They beat teams like Oklahoma State, Colorado, and Cincinnati. Not right now. But at the same time, lose to teams like Utah, TCU, Texas Tech, and Houston. So again, I'm just not in love laying points with a Kevin Young coach team in BYU against a Scott Drew team in Baylor, who kind of you're getting somewhat of like a desperate Baylor team. To have Baylor at 5-3 in the Big 12. They're still fighting for that upper echelon spot and like the top 5 spots in the Big 12. So again, Baylor's played one of the hardest schedules in the country. I think they're top 10 in the country as far as schedule is concerned. BYU's in the hundreds. So again, when BYU has stepped up in class, they haven't looked good. Maybe they can do it here because of the scheduling spot and the terrible scheduling spot that Baylor's in. But I lean Baylor here. I think that there's a reason this number hasn't been pushed to 4 yet. So the more that this number sits at 3.5, the more it makes me really want to play Baylor.
Yeah, that is true because everyone was liking BYU last night. Again, today we're polling 65% BYU. And it's still just sitting at 3.5. So clearly something's coming in on the other side.
And every Twitter head, every cool capper,
cool capper, every single one.
I was trying to be nice. I didn't want him to.
Every cool capper.
Say something I regretted.
Every single cool capper is on BYU here. All right, let's do you got an underdog, Prop Beaver? Let's see it. Let's see what you cooked up, Prop Beaver, who's been hitting some props. What'd you cook up for us today?
I smell it.
I think you're muted.
I am muted. I guess I was better off anyways. So basically we have...
Hold on. Your voice is very quiet. I could see on the bar.
All right, so we have our 2-leg underdog here. We've got Dylan Brooks lower than 13.5 points and Austin Reaves higher than 6.5 points. Dylan Brooks was one of the legs I left off today. But I do like it. And then we got Austin Reaves higher than 6.5 assists. That's a mode I play. Why don't I have any of my plays? I guess they're not available right now. Maybe it'll be available soon. The underdog promo of the day, if you don't like one of those legs or would like to maybe even add a leg, well, you could do so by doing Steph Curry higher than a half total point. That's for new customers. And if you would like to become a new customer, you can do so in any of these fine yellow states. Just use the promo code BET, B-E-T.
Is the mic pointed at you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking right into it.
I can hear fine. I was listening on my phone.
Yeah, look, it looks quiet on the thing. All right. So yeah, promo code BET, B-E-T, if you want to sign up for Underdog. Let's have ourselves a good one. I think I've only had one losing day in the last 9 or something ever since remember that disaster wildcard weekend, so around 2 weeks ago when I went 0-3 in the 3 games. Been a nice couple weeks for me, so hopefully that continues. Cool news on the app, but actually it needs to get approved first, and it's 10 to 14 days, so I don't want to announce it until I know, but I think the app is finally back. Whew, that was a nightmare. So yeah, I'll let you guys know when it's back up and running. There's a lot of people that said, let me know when the app's back. So I will let you guys know when it's back up and running. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Hit me up in the Discord if you need me. Betting league, you got 2 hours. If you're getting in the league tonight, you got 1 hour, 51 minutes to get your picks in for tonight. Yeah, bet responsibly tonight. Hit me up in the Discord if you need me. I'll be here working all night. Later.